This time, I'd like to talk about the mixer. This is the Behringer, and it's probably one of the nicest pieces of equipment that I've got in my setup. Now, I don't actually know how to pronounce the names here, so Behringer, Xenyx. This is the Xenyx, Zenyx 1202. It is roughly $60, and that's cheap. I mean, compared to the Rocket, which had 18 potentiometers for setting controls, the Xenyx is, it just controls all over the place. And if you were to buy those individually, you could easily spend up to $60 just for the controls and the knobs. So I think it's a really good deal. Now, the main purpose behind a mixer is to have multiple instruments feeding in at one time. And deciding which of those instruments you want to have louder than the other. Now, you probably already know all this stuff, so you're probably going on to some other video. However, for those of you that are just starting out, if you want to get a mixer, you're probably going to be looking very, very low end. And that may be 2 or 3 inputs, which when you start expanding your main setup is not going to be enough. So getting something that at least has 4, 6, 8 inputs is almost an ideal starting point. That's where you should start looking. When you're dealing with synthesizers, largely they're monochannel. There's no particular reason to have stereo connectors here. So that's going to be a monochannel feeding into the mixer. And there are individual monochannels. So you could go just left channel, left channel, left channel with 3 or 4 synths, and that would be adequate. If you want to expand your setup and you have something like 16, 20 synthesizers, you could plug them in individually to each of the inputs for the other mixer channels. Things like microphones might be stereo. The K-Oscillator Pro is stereo out, in which case you could feed something like the K-Oscillator Pro into one of the stereo channels, and then something like the Rocket into a mono channel. So if you are new to mixers, you don't want all of the channels to be equally hot. You may want to promote one over the other. You've got line in. And then equalization. Mid-channel boost. Low channel boost. Low filter off. Special effects mix. Pan. And then level up. And if you want to work with the other channel, same idea. Then master out. And if you're trying to avoid bothering anyone, you're working by yourself in your room, you're going to have headphones hooked up, and then you have the headphone control out. Now, there are two models that are very, very similar. They've got the same number of input channels, but the other one, being just a little bit cheaper, doesn't have the special effects option. And to me, if you're going to be using synthesizers, you want to make electronic sound, having additional filter control or frequency boost is very convenient. And this model is, like I say, not expensive. So if you're going to make electronic sound, you want to mess with stuff, you really want to have the extra options. And getting the special effects portion is really, really useful. The effects work in groups of 5 for the most part. Each effect starts out with one setting being very soft, then they get gradually stronger until you get to the 5th setting, and then you go to the next effect. You've got flanger effects, pan effects, frequency sweep. About 99 different effects, and they largely break up into 20 master groups. And you can decide whether or not a particular channel is going to receive that effect or not. Like I say, I think that this mixer is one of the most powerful pieces of equipment in the entire setup here. So, yeah, I'm really satisfied with it. And that's this.